So I'm coming to you from Prospect Cemetery, which is down the street from where I live, and I'm trying to keep my voice down because there's other people in the cemetery, and I don't want to be disrespectful for anything. Although I am placing my computer on top of a gravestone, so thanks Rachel. I'm sure she is happy that her gravestone is coming to some use. Anyway, I don't mean to be too lighthearted. It is Halloween after all. Yeah. Anyway. Um, yeah, the atmosphere in my house these days has been really thick, and not really liking it. I swear to God, when I turn 18, I am so out of there. But I'm sure, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I make my videos. I mean, it's all going to end up in California somewhere. So I'm sure some of you will disagree with that, but somewhere in California, I think. But anyway, so as promised, I was going to do a video on religious symbols and religious dress, etc., etc. And I have to just start off by saying, people who claim that religious dress, and I'm going to be very general about religious symbology or religious symbols or religious dress, etc., etc. People that wear them, usually in any constitutional setting or any legal setting or any court challenge or anything like that, going up against the government or any other entity that wants to limit the use of religious symbology or religious symbols, they always claim to be defending their right to religious freedom. And I think that's important, especially considering people who say that, religious dress is just dress. And I know that's really generalizing it, but I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that these challenges always run up against religious freedom laws or rights. And I think that that's very telling. I mean, so if somebody is just wearing religious dress for the mere fact of wearing clothes, then are they just using the law arbitrarily to get their way? I mean, why don't they just claim that it's just clothes? So I'm saying that, you see it in France, you see it in Quebec, and you see it everywhere. Every time these laws get challenged, it's based on religious freedom laws or constitutional rights. So, and it's always based on religious rights. So, yeah, I don't really get the argument of it being clothes. Now, if it is clothes, maybe it's a mixture of both. So it's clothes and religious rights. But then you're looking at issues of coercion. Issues of I mean you look at basically something like the Sikh turban, which has recently been exempted from laws requiring people to wear helmets when they ride motorcycles in Ontario, and I think in BC as well. So why are they wearing these turbans? Like, I mean, it doesn't block their face. It doesn't do anything, obstructive in terms of identification. But what it does do is actually put you at risk for basically killing yourself due to head injury if you're in a collision or some other accident on a motorcycle. So what I'm trying to prove here is the depth and the undertow, if that's the right way to use that word, of religious symbols. Like, I mean, these people would much rather risk death, like basically fatal head injury, than take their turbans off, or not even take their turbans off, but wear a helmet, then put the turban on. It takes like 15 minutes to tie a turban or something. So it shows the seriousness with which these people take their religious conviction, and it really does speak to a certain level of coercion. I mean, if you're going to risk your life, I mean, it better be for something that you really, really believe, even if it's, and in this case, it's kind of irrational. I mean, the reason for the Sikh turban, according to Sikhs, is because it helps identify a good Samaritan, to put that generally as well. So, I mean, anyway, so for brevity's sake, I'll just quickly touch on basically why people wear these symbols. And it's usually, in a very general sense, kind of a signal of virtuous qualities. And essentially what you would think is, almost naturally, is, well, what does that say about people who don't wear these symbols, right? What are they saying about people that don't wear these symbols? What's the rationale behind, like, not having that Sikh dagger that's used to ward off evil spirits or whatever? I mean, so somebody else who doesn't have the Sikh dagger can't ward off evil spirits? They're possessed, or they're fighting a battle without weaponry. I mean, so, but let's forget that there's a flip side to what these people say when they wear these symbols. For their own safety, for their own identification purposes, for their own social sort of social lubrication, they would much rather give up these things. I mean, there's women that wear the niqab in France, or or there have been cases in Quebec where women say if they can't wear their religious symbol or their religious dress, they're just gonna stay home from work. Like, I mean, that's, they're gonna lose their livelihoods for this stuff. And I mean, it's kind of similar to the Sikh turban as well, except it's not as fatal. Hopefully hopefully the welfare state kicks in. I mean, I'm the one to talk about the welfare state. I'm on ODSP, so I mean, I'm kind of making a joke about it, but not really. But anyway, so yeah, that's basically to wrap up what I'm trying to say. I find that these religious symbols are not just clothing. They strike at a very religious rationale, if you could call anything religious rationality, but that's what they tend to go after. And yeah, I don't see where the clothing argument comes in. It's whether it's a mixture of clothing and religious reasons, that's kind of up in the air, but it all comes back to religion and the irrationality that religion can impose on people's lives. So that's it. Yeah, bye from Prospect Cemetery. I'm back to my house where I'm not liking the atmosphere in the house these days, but what am I going to do, right? I mean, what am I going to do? It costs money. So, but yeah, I mean, I've lived there for 3 years. I've loved living there. For 3 years, I've loved this room that I rent out and I just can't see myself moving anytime soon. But I'm just saying, there's a temporary kind of it's stomach wrenching kind of thick air in the house and in the house, and I just can't. I feel like I don't even want to make this video in the house today because it just elicits some weird kind of feedback. But anyway, it's gonna get weird feedback anyway. I usually get weird feedback about these videos. But anyway, that's my personal life. Blah blah blah. Bye.